Welcome Nightfarers to the Ningen Plays channel, where we will be breaking down all 8 of the playable characters in Elden Ring Nightreign in these individual guide videos to help you decide which of them is right for you to jump in and face the challenges of the night. Today we are going to be talking about Raider, another character that was not available in the network test but has been used in some hands-on plays with recent things like PAX and some other events where journalists and other people have been able to get their hands on this character and actually give him a little bit of playtime. Now, this character is the full-on representation of a strength build from a usual Soulsborne game. So if you're somebody who's always favored a strength heavy character swinging around a giant two-handed weapon, this is going to be the character for you. He's built for pure offense. He specializes in tanking hits and dishing out unrelenting physical punishment. Unlike the other heavy class, the Guardian, which of course we will have a guide for coming out soon as well, they seem similar due to their bulky appearance and preference for big weapons, but their styles of play are very different. Guardian is built with defense and team protection in mind. Like, for example, he has a shield and his starting weapon is the polearm, which of course can be used in comparison with a shield, whereas the Raider has abilities that focus more on his own tanking and being able to force his way through enemy attacks without being staggered, without taking damage. If you're used to Soulsborne terms, and essentially his abilities give him a tremendous amount of poise, which is essentially similar to like super armor in other games, right, where certain abilities will allow him to attack through enemy attacks, right? So if we start off with his actual specific abilities, his passive ability is called Fighter's Resolve. And it cannot be knocked down while using the Retaliate skill. So this is one of those things, it goes hand in hand with one of his other abilities. Obviously on its own it doesn't necessarily do anything. It may seem underwhelming. It is basically when you're using his other main skill, he can't be knocked down. So whilst it might not seem like much, obviously it is a very powerful effect when you are using his main character skill. So we'll jump straight into talking about that. So his main character skill is called Retaliate, and the description is a vigorous punch that can stagger even the largest enemies. So at first glance, like, that skill may seem a bit underwhelming, especially if you just use it haphazardly against a random small enemy or something. It essentially will just be 2 stomps that deal a little bit of physical and poise damage, and essentially that's it if you just throw it out at any sort of given moment. But the way it works to its full effectiveness, because of his passive, as we just discussed, he can't be knocked down while performing it. So if an enemy is about to perform an attack onto you, especially a larger enemy, whilst you use this character skill, you have the ability to not be knocked down. You essentially tank through the hit. And what the true beauty of this ability is that if you successfully absorb a high damage hit while using Retaliate, because of course you will just power through it, the second stomp is replaced with a massive punch attack. And not only does that attack do significantly more damage, it has incredibly high stagger damage. Obviously people used to the Elden Ring core gameplay style, I'm sure, are used to the strategy of jumping R2s, especially with two-handed heavy weapons, dealing this massive poise damage to the enemy, which can cause them to be staggered and allow you to get the riposte for a huge critical hit. And essentially that is what Retaliate does for the Raider if performed at the right time. So you can essentially use it when an enemy is telegraphing coming in for an attack, which of course, like any Souls game, a lot of the combat in Nightreign is going to be getting used to the enemy attacks and knowing what they're doing as they go to do these attacks. And so yeah, you will be able to tank through a hit using this skill, dealing some big damage to them and of course potentially staggering them, which even if a riposte isn't necessarily available straight away or you can't quite get to the enemy, it gives all of your allies the ability to deal extra damage to the enemy in question without having to worry about being charged down, being attacked. It essentially puts a bit of a breathing room in the fight for you and your team. So this will be very, very useful, especially against bosses. Once you have the timing down for their attacks, and you can time the release of your retaliate skill in order to not only allow you to avoid taking big damage from their attacks, but to perform this incredibly powerful counter attack as well. And then his ultimate art is called the Totem Stellar. So essentially he slams his dagger, or one of the descriptions was like the Gravedigger Shuffle, slams into the ground and summons a giant totem that erupts upwards from the ground. It's basically a giant stone column. Now, on spawning into play, like the column rises up from the ground, it does AoE damage to any enemies nearby. So using it directly where enemies are can obviously cause a big load of damage to them on the actual casting of the ability. And then after creating the giant square plinth, as we've seen in some of the clips, you can then climb up on top of it, which will not only allow you a little bit of strategic breathing room for the fight, it will allow characters like I to have a perch to shoot from, and then of course it will give you a nice big platform to leap and perform one of those good old jumping R2s and deal some big damage to the enemy. And not only that, once it's in place, not only is it providing this strategic platform for you, but it also gives a buff to nearby allies. So it's a damage buff. So essentially all allies within a certain range get a damage buff. So even characters like, for example, we just said I standing on top of the thing to shoot enemies, his damage is then being buffed by this ability as well. So this is super, super useful. And one thing that actually was pointed out by someone that played during the PAX event is that because summoning the totem does this big AoE damage, remember that one of the key mechanics when you are fighting together with your team in Nightreign is that if your allies go down, you have to hit them in order for them to get back up, right? And you can do this in any way. Any abilities that can do damage, you can use on your allies in order to pick them back up. So for the most part, this will involve running up to them and just attacking them with your weapon. But if you get into a situation, especially in a boss fight, where one or even both of your allies go down nearby, and they're, especially if the boss is nearby them as well, you can run over, use your ultimate ability to summon the totem, and not only does that give you the ability to knock back the boss and do a little bit of damage to him, create this obstacle between you and him for some strategic movement, but the AoE of the totem appearing itself counts as you hitting your allies. And because it does a big AoE damage, especially if they've only gone down once, maybe twice, because obviously the more times you go down, the more hits you actually have to give your allies in order to revive them, but especially if they're only on their first down, just by casting the totem and hitting them with the AoE, you're able to then bring them back up off the ground and into the fight. So definitely very, very useful. This guy has a lot of interesting play, because not only can he just be that solo tanky boy that goes in and deals damage whilst having really high defense, but those abilities are also very helpful in a team sense, not only to keep the boss under control with the potential stunning if you retaliate through one of their attacks, but then his ultimate art not only provides damage, but it provides a plinth that can be strategic for movement, which also provides a buff to the allies and can even be used as a way to revive in a serious situation. So this guy seems like an absolute great option, like I say, for anyone who favors a strength build. Strength weapons are what you want to go for, two-handed weapons that deal as much damage as possible, and then dominate the battlefield with your very high defense, very high damage output, and abilities that help to protect the team as well. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, Raider definitely is the class for you. Very, very strong damage output, solid defense. He is definitely someone that I am very much looking forward to. When we saw the couple of new characters that weren't available in the network test, this was one that I was immediately drawn to as the kind of playstyle that I like to use. I've always been very much a strength faith main in Soulsborne games. So let me know what you guys think of Raider down below in the comment section. Is he the Nightfarer you are going to be playing as when Nightreign drops? Let me know all your thoughts on him and Nightreign in general down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it from me. Take care, Nightfarers. I will see you out there. Peace out.